On the quiet, he's a member of the refereeing commission for the International Federation for Fencing. But I think the stunning part of his CV, which I read here, is that he's been engaged and very closely involved in the organisation of risk management for 13 Summer and Winter Olympic Games, which I think is a fantastic record. So he's coming here today to talk to us about risk management. Welcome, Patrik. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I will try to speak about the risk management for large events during the half an hour I have to speak to you. The risk management and insurance are the two facets of the two aspects of the same philosophy. The events must take place on the set date at the chosen venue within the predetermined budget. These 3 points are really very important because all the games organizers are problem in particular right now in London. With the budget, and it's very important during the bidding process to be very clear in terms of predetermined budget. So we will see during this speech 5 areas which are of the risk management, which are risk identification, contract analysis and review, contingency planning, claims administration, and loss prevention and control. The modelization of the risk management process is very, I can say very simple, but it's a long way. Just to give you an example, for the risk management process in Beijing, we work around more than 3 years. So the first part of the process is to identify the risk. Is to identify the risk. This is the first phase of the job. After that, we have to assess the risk, to treat the risk. It means to find solution in order to avoid the risk. And monitoring. It means to follow the risk, even if we find a good solution for the treatment. And in these 4 phases, we have to measure, compare, improve, and inform. Information is a very important problem, in particular when you have a large event like the Olympics, because you have an incredible number of people working within the organizing committee, and we have to inform everybody about the risks they have to treat. So the risk identification is a long process, something between 6 months and 1 year. It depends on the size of the event. And we have to organize meetings with all the project managers for risk assessment. For example, in Beijing, for the 2008 Olympics, we organized 64 meetings with 2 or 3 people, which are all of them in charge of one particular project, one particular functional area. And after these different meetings, which take, as I told you, between 6 months and 1 year, we have to create a risk register, which is the basis of our job, and to analyze the risk by applying the quantification system. I will show you the quantification system. We use two lines of analysis, which is probability of occurrence and severity. And we give a note, 1 if the risk is very good, 5 if the risk is very bad. It's the same thing for occurrence and severity. And if we, if we arrive in this area, which is red or orange, between 12 point and 25 point, we have a very bad risk and we have to treat this risk. At the opposite, if we have a risk between 2 and 4, maybe 6, we can accept this risk because the risk is, in this case, acceptable. To identify the risk, we use a matrix of what we call the 4 quadrant of risk, in which we have strategic risk, financial risk, hazard and force majeure risk, and operational risk. I show you the target, which is you have the event in the middle, and you have risk internally driven and risk externally driven. When I say externally, it could be by the International Federation, by the FISU, for example, or by the IOC, or by the FIFA if it is a football event. And we go into detail right now. So the first quadrant risk is financial. So we have to protect the revenue of the event, which are sponsorship, marketing, broadcast right, ticket sales, but also we have to protect this revenue against the currency fluctuation and the interest rates. To give you an example, in Nagano 1998, they receive all the revenue in dollars, and they made all the expense in yen. During one night, something happened in the world, and the dollar lost something like 30% in one night, which means that the organizing committee lost in one night 30% of its revenue. So you can imagine that it is very important to be protected against this currency fluctuation. And for the bank, in the interest rates is the same thing. For example, in Albertville in 1992, we have a sponsor bank at the level of the bid committee, which gave to the organizing committee, to COJO d'Albertville, very good rates. But at the end, when Albertville was selected, they decided to choose another banker. And the new one give rates much higher, 3%, higher than the first one. And the price of this small mistake, which is not really a mistake, but it is a commercial negotiation or agreement, this mistake cost around 20 million euro only in interest rates. The strategic risk quadrant is essentially reputation damages and problem arising from press relations. Another example, I used to work for Media Expo in Switzerland, which was, the name of this expo was Expo 01. And because of the problems they had with the press, in the media, the TV, every day, they were not able to organize the event because they were fighting every day instead to organize the event. And they decided to postpone the event of 1 year. So instead of Expo 01, it was Expo 02, just only for problem of reputation. And also breach of contract. Could you imagine if the contract between the IOC and the city which hosts the games will be cancelled? What happened? It's an incredible loss for the organizing committee. So we have to analyze of this type of risk. And the operational quadrant of risk represent, which is something very easy to understand, like IT system failure, problem of transportation. Remember that in Atlanta, 1996, we had around 2,000 buses, and the majority of them were staying in the garage because they had a lot of car crash. So it's a very big risk, because if we are not able to transport the public or the athletes to the stadium, it's very important, because you have to cancel the game or to cancel the event. Hazard and force majeure risk quadrant are traditional, in particular for those who speak about insurance, terrorism, war, strike, boycott, fire and explosion, and natural disaster. And the weather, in particular for the event which takes place in winter. The weather is very important. Remember that, as Carmen told, we have problem with the snow, too much snow, not enough snow, too much rain, too much wind, so we have an incredible number of risks only for the weather, in particular for the winter games. The risk identification, as I told you before, is we use a risk matrix for quantification of each functional area. We have in our risk matrix around 5,000 risks which were created during the last 20 years, working for almost 100 different events, like the Olympics, but also like the World Cup or the FISU Games and so on. So we have to find solution for each risk, and we have also to control permanently and to check the impact of the loss mitigation measures. This is a long process, as I told you. For Beijing, it was more than 3 years. For Vancouver, it is more than 4 years. We began to work at the end of 2005, and the games take place in 2010. Just to show you what we call the operational readiness. The beginning of the operational readiness is the analysis of strategic and operational risk, which means that I give you the example of Beijing. In Beijing, after the analysis of each functional area, we found 700 risks, between 700 and 800, but only 10% of them were part of the strategic analysis of the operational risk. So we have to work only on 75 risks. We made an impact analysis of each risk, And after that, when we finish our job internally, we prepare what we call tabletop and simulation, which are exercised in front of the organizing committee. We took small teams of each functional area, and we discussed with this team, giving them a lot of scenario, very, very bad scenario, worse and worse scenario, in order to understand how this team reacts in case of problems. After that, we have what we call the test event, in particular for the Olympics. So we have some large event which take place 1 year or 10 months before the event itself. And after this testing, we made another tabletop and simulation exercise, just in order to know if the lessons from the testing are well, how I can say that, well improved. And something like 3 months before the games, or before the event, we have a general rehearsal, which is a big party with something in Beijing. It was a big party with 400 people, 600 people, sorry. And it was also a sort of scenario, but not only with small team, but with a very, very big team, as I told you, 500 or 600 people. So the operational readiness is 4 phases, which are risk assessment, contingency plan,